Hello, Moonflower. Welcome to the podcast. My name is Carolyn. I am your host and your companion on walking along this path of being a moonflower. If it's your first time here, welcome. If it's not your first time here, welcome back. It's always lovely to spend some time with you and to be able to share authentically and really honestly with you. So today's episode is an announcement. If you follow me on Instagram, if you are a Moonflower Path member, if you are registered to the newsletter, then you've already received this announcement. But I wanted to also make the announcement because some folks only listen to the podcast or only watch the podcast on the YouTube channel. So I'm going to be sharing with you the decision to hit pause on the Moonflower Path Community Space, and we're going into hibernation mode. So if you are either a longtime listener to this podcast or you've been part of this community for a little while, then this episode is for you. If you are feeling inside of yourself this urge to hit pause on things, whatever that might be, then this episode is for you, because I hope that this helps offer you maybe a little bit of a permission slip or a bit of inspiration to make that decision, whatever the best one is for you. And if you are somebody who's already set things up in your life, you've already made the decision to hit pause or to take a break from something or to let something go, and again, you would appreciate a little bit of inspiration or a little bit of like, we got this, then today's episode is for you. I have brought in my activity basket because I feel a little, I don't know, not nervous, not anxious, but just a little like, ooh, this is like an emotionally charged topic for me because I'm in the thick of it. And so I thought that it would really help for my hands to be moving. So if you are also a knitter or you do something else craft-wise, creativity-wise, and you want to sit back and knit with me or create with me, or maybe you're on a walk or you're listening on your morning commute and you're enjoying your cup of coffee, regardless, let's cozy in, settle in, and hang out together for a little while as I share with you what is going on over here in the Moonflower Path. Welcome to the Moonflower Path podcast. This space is for the highly sensitive, the creatives, the earth-loving, the caregivers, the weirdos, the feelers, the change makers, and dreamers of the world. Here, we are all about guiding you to trust your body intuition so you can find home and shift culture. Through the exploration of somatic practice, self-care, and seasonal ritual, my hope is that you will be inspired to be in harmony with yourself and in a dance with the earth. I'm your host, Carolyn, and I'm so honored and grateful to be here with you today. So for those of you who are watching the video and you're just curious, what are you working on, Carolyn? So I'm making a sweater, and this is the bottom of the sweater. It's a cardigan, so it's like open. Here, I'm like halfway through a row. So this is the bottom of the cardigan, and I'm working bottom up. I've never made a sweater before. I've never made a cardigan before. The closest item of clothing that I've made, or the only item of clothing that I've ever made, is a tank top, like a reversible tank top. And so this is my first attempt. The yarn, if you're curious, is from Wool in the Gang, and it's their crazy sexy wool, super bulky, and this color is mellow mauve. It's 100% wool. So if you're listening in and you're hearing this sound in the background, that's because I'm knitting away as we're hanging out and as we're chatting. So I wanted to start with reading the letter that I sent out to the community as a whole around this decision, and then I'll talk a little bit about it and also just kind of hold space for our collective desires to maybe take a little bit of a break from things. Dear Moonflower, I am sending you this note with a heavy heart but a hopeful spirit. After many months of consideration, I have made the decision to put the business in hibernation mode for an undetermined amount of time. If you're a Moonflower member, you have already received this announcement. All live programming in the Moonflower Path Community Space will end on December 22nd, 2023, after our winter solstice gathering. I'll be making another announcement about how I want to send things off with you very soon surrounding the winter solstice gathering. Now, I'm sure you're wondering why and what and a few other things. In the interest of being honest with you while also honoring my needs right now, the explanation I can offer is this. This is a decision I am making for the good of my family, my mental health, and my creative spirit. Even though a part of me is absolutely gutted, the other part of me feels a deep sense of relief for the freedom this will offer that creative heart of mine. Running a business that is also a creative endeavor has invited too many internal conflicts for me, and it has affected every aspect of my life. I need a big break to establish what a better balance between being a sensitive, creative spirit and supporting myself and my family financially can look like for me. So I'm going into hibernation. The thing is, though, that the Moonflower Path isn't one thing. It isn't the yoga classes. It isn't the podcasts. It isn't even the community space. The Moonflower Path is a spirit of the vision for sensitive souls to be in harmony with themselves and in a dance with the earth. So what I'm saying is, this isn't really a permanent shutting down of that vision. That vision still rings true in how I want to create and show up in my work and in my life. Maybe the community space coming back in the future will prove the perfect way to promote that vision, or maybe it'll be something else entirely. The vision lives in me, and as corny as this is going to sound, it also lives in you, since you have been a part of the spirit of what makes the Moonflower Path so special. I don't see the spirit of the Moonflower Path ending. She just needs some hibernation time. The website will still be live. The merch shop will remain open should you wish to financially support this business. The podcast will run until the end of December and probably come back pretty soon in the new year. I've really enjoyed having this space to share and connect with you in a really authentic and honest way. But what I really want to say is a big thank you. Thank you to every single one of you who attended any of my offerings over the past 3 years. Thank you to every single person who shared my content and helped spread the word. Thank you to every person who kindly listened to me as I grappled with business decisions and wholeheartedly cheered me on. Thank you for believing in the vision of this space, because the spirit of the Moonflower Path will remain alive from that belief in order to blossom into whatever its next iteration will look like when the time is right. We talk in this community and we explore in this community the lessons of cyclical living, the lessons of seasonal living. I have noticed in myself, and you may have also noticed this in yourself as well, that I tend to go through typical and regular cycles. Times where I feel really up and great and inspired and passionate and creative, and times when I don't. And the times when I don't makes it quite challenging to show up and continue to run a business, continue to teach, continue to hold space, and really explore the nuanced experience of supporting folks while I'm also supporting myself. I've known that for a while. And with that, I even implement in 4 2-week breaks into the way that I run this business. But the thing is, though, that sometimes the way that you feel doesn't align with the schedule that you've created. And I'm realizing that things need to change so that I can create space and honor the times when I feel low, the times when I feel like I need more rest, the times when my depression needs to be paid more attention to, and also so that I can have that time and that my finances are not negatively affected. So it's time for me to hit pause on things, to rethink about, how can I make this work? How can I stay true to the why of what I want to be doing here, the way that I want to be supporting folks, to really embody that vision, come back to the basics, the core of that vision, and everything else falls away. But the thing is that the way that the business is set up now is that I can't do that. Marketing still needs to happen. Things still need to be created. A strategy needs to be upheld. And I'm just over it. I'm just sick and done with all of those pieces. So it's time to take a break. It's time to do the scary thing, which is say, I can't do this anymore. And to step back, to move through the murky territory of what now, and to give so much time and space for the inspiration, for the clarity to come back when it's time. And the thing that feels really cool and also funny, I laugh at myself, is that is exactly what this season is all about. It really is. So if you're resonating with any of this, with this desire, right, your body is just like screaming to you to take a break from something, to hit not like a little pause, like we've talked about in this podcast, we've talked about rest, we've talked about releasing over the course of the past few months in this season of fall. And maybe you've done it in tiny doses, maybe you've done it in like ways that you can fit it in. And I do recognize the privilege in me being able to hit like a big red pause button on things. I'm also not just not going to be making money. Like I'm going to be looking for part-time work and looking somewhere else to be able to bring some money in. But what I'm doing is I'm financially sustaining myself so that the creative person inside of me doesn't feel like she needs to be hustling all the time in order to be able to pay the bills. That's where we're at. So if you're feeling this desire to rest radically, to pause radically, then that's kind of what I want to hold space for you for, and to show you that it can be done. I was absolutely terrified to make the announcement. It was really, really scary. But you know what was even more challenging was not doing it. I've talked about in this podcast about how my body is a big, big guide on my self-care journey, and that my body is usually pretty good at letting me know what needs to happen, and I'm consistently trying to become better at listening to my body. And up until having actually vocalized this pause that I've been thinking about doing for months but not acting on, finally I've begun to feel some relief to the discomfort that my body has been feeling for a while. So that's a good sign. That means I've made maybe the right decision for me right now. So if you're finding yourself feeling like there's some discomfort, or that your mental health has become really not in a good way, or something, right? Maybe there's just it's just not working. Your body is telling you something. Get curious, and then also do the big thing. Make the big decisions. It's terrifying, but speaking from being on the other side of at least taking the first step, I'm nowhere near far into the journey of this transition, but at least speaking from somebody who's on the other side of taking that first step, I made it through. And the thing that I'm noticing is that the responses from people around me has only been loving, has only been kind, has only been compassion filled, and also people don't really care. I say that in a positive way. I say that people people have their own things going on in their lives. So if you're worried about making a decision because of what other people will think or that it's going to affect other people, people have their own things. So you need to do you. And I didn't really mean for this episode to be preachy. That's not what I'm here for. I really just wanted to be like friend to a friend, sensitive soul to sensitive soul, creative soul to creative soul. If you're feeling an urge to do something, to wrap something up, to let something go, and it's like pretty clear that that's what you need to do, pretty clear in terms of like your body is telling you that it's time, and you're feeling like you're teetering on the edge of making that decision and taking that first step, I'm not telling you to do it. I'm not telling you to do something that doesn't feel right. I'm just letting you know that you can do it and that you'll be okay and that you are a lot more adaptable and flexible and resilient than I think you give yourself credit in being. So those are my thoughts. Those are my words that I feel like I can voice right now. I am a lot more smiley and kind of giggly right now as I'm recording this episode, which is a good sign, than I was feeling last week when I wrote the words and sent that letter out. So yeah, that feels good. Also, I'm almost at the end of this row that I'm working on, and that's also a good thing. So logistically, the Moonflower Path Community Space is going to run until the end of December. And if you want to come and celebrate the end of this chapter and hold space for your own endings and for the end of your own cycle, then there's going to be some information around that and how you can do that with us. In probably the next episode, most likely, or register to the newsletter if you're not already, and that's typically where I tend to post the announcements. And then, like I said, the podcast is going to continue to run until the end of December. I have some really, really wonderful conversations to bring to you. 2 creative souls have sat down and had a conversation with me. So I'm really looking forward to sharing those conversations with you and to lean into coziness as a helpful support to navigate December and to bring 2023 to a close in a really gentle and soft way. So the podcast is going to run until the end of the year, and then we're going to take a little bit of a break. I don't know how long that's going to be, and then we'll come back in the new year so that we can explore the themes of a whole new wheel of the year beginning. Thank you for listening to this episode. Thank you for being here, for listening to my words. Thank you for being the wonderful soul that you are. I hope that sharing at least a little bit of my own personal experience throughout making this decision helps inspire you to know that you can do big things and hard things as well, and that you can lean into whatever your version of releasing, of rest, of letting go, of hitting pause, of leaning into hibernating for as long as you need to, that you feel like you can make that decision a little bit more courageously. Wishing you a really wonderful rest of your day, wonderful rest of your week. Thank you for hanging out as I make a little bit more progress on my sweater, and you'll hear from me again next week. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode of the Moonflower Path podcast. I'm your host, Carolyn, and ways that you can find more support from me and this cozy community are all found in the show notes. Please consider rating, reviewing, and sharing this podcast with a friend. Those are the best ways to show your support for this free and accessible resource. Wishing you a gentle rest of your day, and I look forward to connecting again with you very soon.